that, this is going to deal with basically the concept of that we should never just have one Bible to read from. So let's see here. You know what? Maybe I should have my laptop my laptop charger in here. Let's see here. Might be a decent idea there. Okay. All right. We're live, everyone. Shalom. I'm Brother Doug. My brother Joshua is listening in with me today with Brother Ray. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be kind of just doing a video that I wanted to do for a while, because I see there's in this Hebraic roots movement, we tend to sometimes get this idea that we only want to read the restored name Bibles. We only want to read them because we can't deal with the Lord and God in there, and all that. And I can totally understand that. I've been there. Trust me, I've been there. I understand. I'm going to show you guys why that I would not reject all these other resources Yahuwah himself has baruched us with. Yahuwah has, I know for a fact, he led me to the Septuagint. He led me to the Targums, which, by the way, for the most part, these older versions of the Tanakh do not have restored name Bibles, or even if they do, they're extremely expensive, and you're wasting your money just to get, the name restored there, where if Yahuwah is leading you to understand where his name should be, using concordances and stuff like that, you can kind of figure out where Yahuwah is supposed to be in the text, even without it literally being restored there physically in a translation. So, but on a bigger topic here, this is going to deal with the two main belief systems out there. One mainly in Christianity, known as KJV onlyism, which is ridiculous, mainly because there's about 6,000 times the Father's name was removed out of there, so obviously it can't be infallible. Plus the fact that it bases its translation on a Masoretic text, solely on the Masoretic text for the Old Testament for the most part. So we're going to be dealing with that side of it, plus the Hebraic roots side of it, where the same type of mentality is used with the restored name scriptures, and why it is an error to believe that we should only be reading restored name Bibles or translations. So, all right, so let's get started here. So it says, firstly, almost every translation of the scriptures use a corrupted version of the Tanakh, aka the Masoretic text, and this is a fact. If you do your research, you'll find out the ISR 2009 does it. The Hallelujah Scriptures trust almost solely on the Masoretic text. They might take a verse or two here or there from the LXX, the Septuagint, but the majority of the time, 80-90% of the time, they're using the Masoretic rendering. And maybe, as I'm going through these bullet points towards the end, I'll start showing you guys what I mean by that. So I'm going to show you proof of that actually right now. With the biggest, most obvious ones are the quotes from the New Testament. You can easily see that. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. So I think everyone knows the verse. I was just looking at something earlier. Everyone knows the verse. A body you have prepared for me, right? I'll show you this. This is just one example. All right, so let's go there to where Paul is quoting from in Hebrews 10, 5-7, right? So I'm going to show you guys something interesting here. No problem, brother. I see you back, Brother Ray. So what we're looking at here is the problem with some of the quotes from the Brit Hadashah, even with the restored name Bibles. I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about here. So we'll go to Hebrews 10, 5-7. This is the biggest, most obvious example here, like I said. You go to the TS 2009. All right, so you do Hebrews 10, 5-7. It says here, therefore, coming into the world, he says, slaughtering a meal offering you did not desire, but a body you have prepared for me. Okay, that's 100% correct. Okay, that's the quote. But I'm going to show you guys how if you go to where it's quoting from and how the ISR is using the wrong source for this verse in Psalms. I'm going to show you the problem here. Because they're probably pro-Hebrew, anti-Greek. They decided to use the Masoretic text, which they, I guess, didn't realize that it is not word for word a quote with what Paul's quoting from. The Masoretes changed this text to read, "You've opened my ears," instead of "a body you've prepared for me." So this part right here has been corrupted. So any translation, including the Restored Name translations, that use the Masoretic text version of this verse, they are changing Yahuwah's word, whether they realize it or not. So that's why I say we should not swear off regular English translations like the English translation of the Septuagint. Okay, because clearly you can see here it's a word for word quote. Okay, it says, "Sacrifice and offering you would not," you don't desire, "but a body you have prepared for me." Word for word quote. So obviously Paul was quoting from the Septuagint and not the source that the ISR uses in their verse, the same version of Psalms 40 verse 6. So they're using a different version, a different source for that exact verse. That is not the source that Yahusha or Paul or any of the apostles would have had. So this is the major problem. And I shared a video recently. I really recommend people check it out. It's called "Why Should We Use the Septuagint?" Really recommend it. It goes through the whole history about it. I don't have time to go through the whole history about it, but I really recommend you guys get into it. And we said it multiple times on the channel, the whole history of it. You can look it up in problems with the Masoretic text have, and all of that. And I think accuracy of this proof of accuracy of the Septuagint. There's a whole playlist on our YouTube channel. So what I'm going to do is leave links for that, so you guys can look it up for yourselves. Why it's important to look into the Septuagint. Okay. So anyway, so that's the first bullet point there. That's the problem with just trusting one main translation, is that the majority of the English translations today trust in the Masoretic text solely for the Old Testament. Major problem. Secondly, every translator has their own cultural or religious bias. This includes even Hebraic roots influenced translators. So this includes pro-Torah people, by the way. This does not exclude Torah believers. They do have their own bias in certain areas. So, and we're gonna discuss that. Thirdly, English translators do not understand fully, like they don't 110% fully understand the ancient languages of the scriptures, like Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, Syriac. No one today can claim they understand those ancient languages perfectly, that they're not going to mess up. Another problem with only trusting one translator. Going back to the manuscript issue, even the New Testament and most modern Bibles, which includes the ISR, which includes the Hallelujah Scriptures, because they don't just use one manuscript. We're going to get to that and show you proof of it, how they switch manuscripts in their Brit Hadashah once they get to Paul's letters. So most modern translations are based on the highly corrupt Codex Sinaiticus Westcott Hort text. You might know it as the Westcott Hort manuscript, which a lot of these modern translations use, like the NIV, the ESV, NLT, NHEB, all of them. So anyway, so these verses are a few examples of how biases have been inserted. I should add an ES here. Biases have been inserted into modern copies of Yahuwah's word. So, all right, so I'm going to show you guys just one example here. Isaiah 7:14. Clearly, the CJB, the Complete Jewish Bible, puts maiden there instead of virgin. The TS 1998 puts maiden instead of virgin. To give credit to the ISR people, they have at least put the Hebrew word back in the 2009 version. So I do want to give kudos and credit to the 2009 version. They actually fixed something that they priorly had an error in. What's really weird to me is some even Catholic Bibles put young woman. don't understand that concept, why your own, first of all, what you believe about the virgin birth, you're contradicting your own belief. That doesn't even make any sense. JPS Tanakh, obviously, Jewish Publican Society, Old Testament, obviously is going to insert the bias of young woman as well, because Judaism does not believe in a virgin birth, so on and so forth. So anyway, so that's just one big example. Another big example would be Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. A lot of modern translators mistranslate the Hebrew word rakia as expanse. So they don't want to believe in a firmament, basically. They don't want to believe in an enclosed Hebrew, ancient Hebrew cosmology, which, by the way, the Hebrews were not the only ones. So people that want to say, like I've heard Christian speakers talk about, oh, they didn't know, they were young and dumb, they didn't know what we found, what Columbus found, and that nonsense. First of all, then you're saying every ancient civilization was dumb and retarded. If you are going to follow that false type of belief system, then you got to believe every ancient cosmology is in error, because the Egyptians believed in it, the Greeks believed in it, the Romans believed in it. And supposedly the ancient Egyptians, right, were supposedly smart and advanced in technology, right? So you're telling me supposedly a genius type of civilization wouldn't understand the cosmology of this Eretz, this Earth, really? Okay, so anyway, that just to prove a point there. So, but people with this false preconceived bias of heliocentrism from public school system will insert it into the text wherever rakia is. You'll see them put expanse. Very few modern translators actually understand what's supposed to be there. It's supposed to be firmament in English, not expanse. And by the way, some Catholic Bibles even understand this concept, and where they see firmament or rakia in the Hebrew, they'll put vault, like the vault of heaven, which, by the way, you see that in a lot of Hebrew apocryphal literature, the vault of heaven. Okay, so again, it's a very common ancient concept of how the universe was viewed versus how we view our world today. The ancients all understood that we lived on a flat earth. But anyway, not trying to go into a whole rabbit trail there, but anyway. My next bullet point is any translation that solely uses the Masoretic text, doesn't matter whether it's Christian, Hebraic roots, Restored Bible, doesn't matter. Any Bible that solely trusts in the Masoretic text in their Old Testament will have issues, will have errors in just these specific verses. These are just a couple of them. Obviously we didn't have time to go through all of them. And I just want to show you guys a couple that there's going to be a problem in. Genesis 2:2 is the first one I want to go to. Genesis 2:2. So Genesis chapter 2, verse 2. And please let me know, guys, if my shared screen's not working. Please let me know. It should be sharing like the whole screen, so I shouldn't have to reshare the shared screen every time. So please let me know if something's going wrong. I'm going to show you guys the first error here. If your translation bases itself solely on the Masoretic text, this is going to be the problem. Here we go. Genesis 2:2. On the seventh day, Elohim completed his work. So, according to the Masoretes manuscript, Yahuwah was still working partially on the seventh day. That means he didn't stop working until it was already the seventh day. So that would mean that for a couple hours on the seventh day, he was working. Okay. So, thank you, Brother Joshua. Thank you. Dang. I don't know why it does that when I'm trying to share the whole screen. All right, hopefully it's sharing it now. So the Masoretic text influenced version would read, and on the seventh day, Elohim completed his work. So the seventh day. So he stopped on the seventh day. That means he's working into the seventh day. And this causes for certain individuals to think it's okay to do some work on the Sabbath. I've actually seen certain mishpachah that are deceived and think that, we could do some work on the Sabbath. No. If you look at the original reading from earlier manuscripts, so I'm going to show you guys something here. Brenton's English Septuagint, right? Okay. And because I know that theos, which is the original Greek word here, even though in English it says God, theos is the exact Greek equivalent to Elohim. So I know without Elohim being there, literally there, I know how to actually read it. And Elohim finished on the sixth day. On the sixth day. Sixth day, his works, which he made. He ceased on the seventh day from all his works, which he made. See, this is the thing. You change one word in a verse, it completely changes the meaning, completely screws up the meaning. So the Septuagint that we have today, this English translation of Septuagint, is more accurate than the ISR 1998, because not that the ISR 1998 is wrong of itself, it's using a source that's incorrect in that verse, if you see what I mean. So the source that the ISR is using is a very flawed source. And I'll show you a second witness that it should say sixth. This is the Samaritan Pentateuch in English. It says, and on the sixth day, Elohim ended his work, which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he had made. So again, this is a major issue in the Masoretic text. So any Bible, not just Restored Name Bibles either, any Bible that bases the Masoretic text for verses like this are going to have errors, which means they can't be perfect, including okay, if we have any KJV onlyists here, including the King James Bible, okay, because they base this verse off of the Masoretic text, so it cannot be fully accurate, cannot be without fault. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go to the next one here. I think the next one is Exodus 12, verse 40, I believe. I'm going to show you guys how this is a error in both the KJV and Restored Name Scriptures here. I'm going to show you in this particular verse. All right. So it says in the 1611 KJV, now the sojourning of the children of Yahusha who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. Did the Israelites really dwell in Egypt 430 years? Okay, that's what we got to figure out here. So if you go to earlier versions of this verse, they disagree. Okay, it says, and the sojourning of the children of Yahusha while they sojourned in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan was 430 years. So basically, it was like 200 and something years each. Okay. And by the way, the Targum of Pseudo-Jonathan literally says that. So the Targum, one of the Targums would actually agree with the Septuagint here. The Samaritan Pentateuch, almost word for word with the Septuagint here. So I just want to show you that the Samaritan version of the Torah says, and it came to pass at the end of 430 years, even the self-same day came to pass, that all the armies of Yahuwah, or the camp of Yahuwah, went out from the land of Egypt. Oh, my bad. My bad. That's right. Verse 39 is verse 40 in the LXX. My bad. That's my fault. So here in the Samaritan Pentateuch, it says, now the sojourning of the children of Yasharel and the fathers of them who dwelt in Canaan and in Egypt 430 years. So again, the Masoretes decided, oh, we're going to take out Canaan there because we want people to think that we dwelt in Egypt for over 400 years. Yeah, no. So again, that's revisionist history by the Masoretes. So you'll see that even in the ISR, I think both versions of the ISR, if I'm not mistaken, they have this error here in Exodus 12:40. They have lived in Mitzrayim for 430 years. So they're trusting in a very fallible source for that verse. If you get my drift here. So that's the problem. And the same problem is in Deuteronomy 32, verse 8. So when the Most High gave, and this is from the ISR 2009, which is basing its version off of the Masoretic here. So it says, when the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the children of Yashrael. So first of all, let's pump the brakes here, right? Okay. Was Jacob alive at this point in Genesis 10 or 11? Was he alive? No. So how would Yahuwah make the boundaries of each country according to the number of the children of Israel if Israel's not alive yet? So right here we have a big problem historically. This is what I would call a historical fanaticism. That's a big problem. Now, if you go to the Septuagint, makes a lot more sense. Which, by the way, also the Targum of the Pseudo-Jonathan would agree in this verse with the Septuagint, by the way. When the Most High divided the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the nations according to the number of the angels of Elohim. Now, this makes a lot of sense because think about it, right? You get to the time of Daniel, right? We can see this in Daniel. You got a prince of Persia, principality of Persia, right? So you got these principalities over every nation. You got one principality for each country that came from the Tower of Babel. Okay, so it makes perfect sense. So you got a principality of Greece, one principality of Persia, one principality of Rome, yada, yada. Okay, and by the way, this actually kind of sheds some light on who the mighty ones of Psalms 82 actually are. So again, this connects and what's the word I'm looking for? Congruently, or kind of harmonizes the text better. Because out of nowhere, the Masoretic text changed the phrase B'nai Elohim originally in the Hebrew, and you know this from the Dead Sea Scrolls version of Deuteronomy. We can have proof of this, dating back to 100 BC that they literally have it worded like that. So there's actual proof that the LXX reading is actually the correct original reading from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so the biggest problem is you change B'nai Elohim to B'nai Yisrael, you get a whole different story. Supposedly Jacob, before he's even born, his children are now given the lot of the sons of Noah. Just way out of context. That doesn't even make any sense. By the way, certain modern translators understand this historical vernaculism and have basically have ignored the Masoretic reading. And I just want to read this commentary from the Hebraic Roots Bible 2012 translator, and I like what he has to say about this. Let me just enhance this a little bit. There we go. So it says, the Masoretic text changed the text here to read according to the number of the sons of Israel. But clearly the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint both correctly state according to the number of the angels or cherubs of Elohim. This verse is relating back to the creation when Yahuwah separated mankind by their races into different regions of the earth and set cherubs in each area according to the number of people. So, and let me explain something here. The tradition of 70 messengers is not that there's only 70 messengers. It's that there, from the Tower of Babel and on, there would have been 70 different languages and different nations or countries. So out of the multitudes in heaven, Yahuwah chose 70 specific messengers for the 70 countries, if that makes any sense. So that's the historical context to that. That unfortunately the Masoretic text completely deletes and gets rid of and doesn't want you to realize the idea of the divine council that's also spoken of in Psalms chapter 82. But anyway, so what I do like is certain modern translators actually take the Dead Sea Scrolls reading over the Masoretic text. For example, the English Standard Version, which I think, Brother Ray, I think you mentioned to me you grew up on. So they actually realize, okay, the Septuagint people and the Dead Sea Scrolls people are right. Masoretes screwed up. Let's use their reading. So right here, so it says, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when they divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of Elohim. So, yeah, I would say fallen messengers. They eventually became fallen, but I think at one point they weren't. When Yahuwah first put them over the nations, I don't think they fell. Especially when you read Psalms 82, it seems like they took advantage of the Gentile nations, and Yahuwah is judging them in Psalms 82, and he's saying you're going to die like men. So to give you an example, what I'm talking about here in Psalms 82. And FYI, everyone, just to understand that this is definitely not talking about humans. 90% of the time when it says sons of the highest, sons of the most high, sons of Elohim in the Tanakh never refers to humans. So that should be a dead giveaway in this chapter. Okay. All right. So anyway, so it says, a psalm for Asaph. Elohim stands in the assembly of mighty ones, and in the midst of them will rightly rule mighty ones. How long will you rightly rule unrighteously and accept the persons of sinners? Rightly rule the orphan and the poor, and do right ruling to the low and the needy. Rescue the needy and deliver the poor out of the hand of the sinner. They know not, nor understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth shall be shaken. I have said, you are Elohim. All of you are children of the Most High. So, and just to say this, it's a very simple concept, is that the biblical definition of children of the Most High is messengers. We are not genetic children of the Most High. We are not a direct genetic child of Yahuwah. And what I mean by that is we are direct children of Adam. If you want to be technical, we are children of Adam or children of Noah. We are not direct descendants from Yahuwah. So if we're going to be honest with the biblical definition, children of the Most High here, sons of Elohim, this is clearly talking about messengers. Okay. All right. But you will die as men, or you die as men do, and fall as one of the princes. The fact that verse 7 says you will die as men, okay, that's showing that he's talking to immortal beings, that something's going to happen to make them mortal. Okay, so obviously this is talking about the princes of the nations, the principalities. Arise, O Elohim, rightly rule the earth, for you shall inherit all nations. And by the way, the Greek word there for nations is ethnicities, FYI. So anyway, but anyway, in short, Deuteronomy 32 verse 8 is a major problem in translations that trust the Masoretic text for it. So that would be the KJV 1611 has an error there. The Hallelujah Scriptures have an error there. The ISR has the error there. Any translation that would not have the reading that the LXX or the Dead Sea Scrolls have. So the ESV, I have to give a plus for Deuteronomy 32 verse 8. NLT, I give a plus. By the way, the NLT, interestingly enough, because it's a paraphrase translation, would translate it as members of the heavenly court. I really like the NLT's version of Deuteronomy 32:8. So I'm trying to think of other ones that have an error for that verse. Most likely, I'm trying to think what modern ones would probably have an error. I'm probably thinking the Complete Jewish Bible. If I'm not mistaken, that probably will have an error there. Yep. According to Israel's population. So there's an error right there. I'm trying to think of any other ones. Yep. The New Heart English Bible has that error there. So there's multiple English translations that side with the Masoretic text, unfortunately, and have that error. Interestingly enough, the Son of Man Bible, which is a restored name version of the Literal Standard Version, the LSV, has the Angels of Yahuwah. So thumbs up, guys, that you took the Dead Sea Scrolls and LXX version there. Unfortunately, translations like the American Standard Version will probably side with the Masoretic, unfortunately. So anyway, that's a major big problem there. What's interesting is, like, Christian translations like the New English translation, wow. Really, I gotta give credit to the New English translation in that. Good job, guys. So that's a big deal there. Trying to think here if there's any other major ones. Now I do want to go to the New Testament. There's a couple of passages in the New Testament that I want to talk about, and how even restored name translators are not perfect and they switch manuscripts. So let's go to Revelations 8, verse 13. My brothers and sisters in our Mishpaka know that I bring this up a lot, this issue with the Codex Sinaiticus manuscript that certain translations use for this verse. Revelations 8:13. Then I looked and I heard an eagle flying directly overhead, proclaiming with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to those who live on the earth, because the remaining sounds of the trumpets of the three messengers who are about to blow them." To me, this is out of place. Why would an eagle be there? It just doesn't make sense to me. If you look at translations that use the Textus Receptus manuscript rather than Codex Sinaiticus, it actually says angel. And the Greek word literally is angel, angelos, there in that verse. So something's going on here. They're using a manuscript that has a completely different word there. Very weird. So, and again, I would agree with the Textus Receptus text that the King James uses rather than the Codex Sinaiticus that the ISR is trusting in, that uses a completely different word, doesn't make any sense. It totally goes against the context of that verse. And you know what? I'm trying to think of other things that are issues here. I'm trying to think of anything else that would be an issue with the restored name scriptures. We don't have time to go through it because there's so many times that this happens, but I don't know if you guys, brothers and sisters out there, are aware of this, but in the ISR, they actually omit introductions to almost every psalm. So obviously we can't go through all of them, but I'm just going to show you guys what I'm talking about here. And I don't think this is a Masoretic text issue. Please correct me, Brother Joshua, but I don't think this is, most of the time it's not a Masoretic text issue. It seems like the translator is like, just leaves it out. So for example, Psalms 101 verse 1, a psalm of David, I will sing to you, O Yahuwah of mercy and right ruling, I will sing a hymn. So I'm wondering here, because a psalm of David completely lacking in 101 verse 1. If I'm not mistaken, it's in the Masoretic because it's actually there in the text, but they just leave it out. Psalm of David. So it's right there in the King James with the Strong's. So the ISR is actually leaving that phrase out that was originally there in that verse. So there, you know, how it says in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2, do not add to his word, do not take away from his word. So whether you think it's necessary or not to have the beginning of a, what would it be called, Mom? The beginning of a stanza, like say you're about to sing and it says a Psalm of Sharon. Would that be a beginning of a stanza? Or I'm just making sure I got the right terminology. So the scriptures 1998 omit that phrase right out there.
Oh, okay.
They take out Psalm of David. And that's just one example. Many different times they do that. There's a guy I have a playlist of. I think I have a one video playlist of this guy. It's a Messianic Jew, by the way, like a Jew that actually, a Jewish person that became a believer of Yahusha. He exposes the omissions and all that. So he, if you want to know more about that, I'll refer you in the link to that video. But he goes into all the omissions of the introductions of each chapter of Psalms, how on the ISR almost every time is omitting introductions. Like for example, Psalms 1:1. Let's go to another one. Blessed Baruch is the man who shall not walk in the counsel of the wicked and shall not stand in the path of sinners. So you go to the Septuagint. Okay, actually, there's not supposed to be an introduction there, so I'll correct myself there. But there are other times where you have introductions. I think it's the later chapters of Psalms, like 50 on. You'll see this right here in the Septuagint, a Psalm of Asaph, which is part of the text. It's not like it's added in. I just want to make that clear. This is not a header or introduction added by translators. This is actually in both the Greek and Hebrew texts that a translator is leaving out. For example, so even the Masoretic Psalm of Asaph, it's right there in the text. So this is the pet peeve I have with certain restored name translators, and why and don't get me wrong, I read the ISR Hallelujah Scriptures as a reference translation from time to time, but at the same time, I'm not going to act like they're infallible. At the same time, they're fallible. It's men trying their best to translate Yahuwah's word, and I think they mean well, but they have made some mistakes. This is one of the major ones, in my opinion. When you're taking out scripture, you're omitting scripture here. You're literally, and I think to the Hallelujah Scriptures credit, when you compare the Hallelujah Scriptures translation to the ISR, they actually have those introductions in there. So the ISR people, for some reason, I guess it's a part of their belief system, they decided not to include that, which I don't understand. Hold on a second, everyone. I'll be right back. Thank you very much. All right, so that's okay. Okay, so that's that. All right, sorry about that, guys. I had a little bit of a package come in. So anyway, so for example, the Sefer includes this, so that's a thumbs up for them in this verse. They actually included Mizmor of Asaph. I'm trying to think of any other translations that do this. I think the majority of the modern English ones don't do it. Like, they won't take it away, like the ISV, Psalm of Asaph. For the most part, as far as I can see here, the modern Christian translations know not to do that. The ESV, Psalm of Asaph, ASV, Psalm of Asaph. Most of them know that it's part of the Greek and Hebrew text, and they're not trying to take it out. So again, I haven't spoken to the ISR why they do this. Really don't know why, but there's multiple times that they do this. Now, obviously, we don't have time to go through all of them, but that's a major issue to me. I'm going to show you guys another issue when dealing with translators that have biases and they trust in the wrong manuscript. There's one more example I wanted to show you guys in Revelations here that many people might not know about, because I know we have some brothers and sisters that read the complete Jewish Bible. I kind of just wanted to show this, other than the fact that they honor the Adonai in the Masoretic text every time. I mean, that should be bad enough, but the complete Jewish Bible completely uses the wrong manuscript for this verse here when it talks about the set apart ones. I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. I think it's Revelations 22, verse 14, where it talks about they have washed their robes. Yeah. Thankfully, I have to say kudos to the ISR and Hallelujah Scriptures. They trust in the Textus Receptus again at this point, which is kind of weird. It's kind of weird to me that they trusted in this verse, but not Revelations 8. So that's a little weird to me. But at least they do it here. So, I have to give props to them for trusting the right manuscript here. So it says, Baruch are those doing his commands. But you'll see in some translations, like the complete Jewish Bible, if you go to verse 14, the same verse in the complete Jewish Bible, they're using the Codex Sinaiticus rendering. Let's see here. Wait a minute. What the heck? They left out like 3 verses. What the heck's going on here? Hold on a second. Maybe my version doesn't have the last 3 verses for some reason. That's a little weird. It might be an old version of theirs. Let me just do something real quick. I want to I want to double check this since we're recording here. I want to make sure. I don't want to be making a false accusation against them, but I do their verse in Revelations 22:14, reading wash their robes. Let's see here. Okay, so yeah, as you can see here. Okay, here we go. Yep, here we go. So something happened, guys. I don't know, my Bible support module of it, and that was like a very old module of the Complete Jewish Bible, didn't have the last 3 verses of Revelation 22, so I had to go to completely different version, a more updated version of the translation. So let me see here. It'd be great if it wasn't so slow. Man, internet's slow today. I think I just have too much apps. In the background. Revelation is 22:14. Baruch are those who wash their robes, so that they might have the right to the tree of life. So wash their robes comes from the Westcott Hort corrupted text, or also known as originally the Codex Sinaiticus. Okay, so basically the Complete Jewish Bible, even though it's a Messianic pro-Torah, it's using a corrupted Alexandrian New Testament manuscript, which would seem to be anti-Torah. I wouldn't be surprised if Westcott and Hort were like kind of like Gnostic and anti-Torah and interpreted the Torah in an esoteric way. I wouldn't be surprised, because I already found out recently the guys that made the Westcott Hort based on the Codex Sinaiticus and Latin Vulgate, it's like these guys were like evolutionists, by the way. So it's very debatable whether these guys were even legitimate Christians making this, combining the 2 manuscripts of the Codex Sinaiticus and Latin Vulgate. So this is the major problem. Translators like the Complete Jewish Bible, I really don't understand why they would use the Codex Sinaiticus there. I'm really blown away that they would use it for that verse. That doesn't make sense. You're supposed to be pro-Torah. That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so these are just some examples, guys, why I am not one translation only person. Closest I am to a one translation person would be for the Tanakh. Our fellowship, for the majority, me and Brother Joshua, I think, would agree, for the majority of the Tanakh, we trust in the Septuagint, regardless of the name issues. We don't let that bother us. I'm not really worried about the fact that there's Lord and God in the English translation. I'm more worried about the actual contents that have been changed by the Masoretic text that completely alter the meaning of a verse. You know what I'm saying? So, and like I said, I read the Hallelujah Scriptures. I have a copy of the Hallelujah Scriptures. It's not that I'm against restored name scriptures, but I'm not trying to say this in a facetious or jerk type of way, but I don't idolize one translation. I don't put it on a pedestal. Every translation that you could read is going to have a little bit of error in it, because they're trusting in the wrong manuscript. They got biases, like I said before. So hopefully this video was a tube way for our brothers and sisters to kind of receive, this and to really second guess the idea of just trusting in one translation. I think for the most part, this is the problem that a lot of us come into. And actually, there's one more verse I wanted to show that Yahuwah bringing to my mind. Psalms 81, verse 3. This is the major problem. If you only trust in the ISR, the Hallelujah Scriptures, you could be erroring possibly in how to keep the new moon. So this is just one example. There's other things too, like the fact that the ISR Hallelujah Scripture, every time Shofar is in the Hebrew. They translate with a preconceived bias as ram's horn, but that's, neither here nor there. But the bigger issue is here. And I'll show you guys how clearly, if you look at all the versions of Psalms here, it seems to be a bias that the modern version of the scriptures translation have. I'll show you how their older version actually was a little bit more accurate in this verse. So, blow the shofar at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our festival day. Okay, so obviously with the comma there, they're indicating it should be a separate thought. So the ISR in 1998 understood this, that the new moon's not the full moon, the new moon's not the covering, okay? They're not the same day. They're not the same appointed time. They understood that back in the 1998 version. When it comes to the 2009, they completely change it and try to make it look like the covering is the new moon. By the way they translate it, blow a shofar in the new moon in the covering for the day of our festival. So the way it's worded, it's like they're combining two thoughts together. And this is where people err and think that we're supposed to be keeping a conjunction. So this is what happens when you only trust in one main translation. And and the Sefer is even worse, guys. So I know there's a lot of Sefer onlyist people out there too. I just want you to take a look at this. This is huge preconceived bias here. Okay. First of all, the word dark is not in the Hebrew. So the fact that they put dark new moon, clearly Stephen Pidgeon's put his own interpretation in the text. Okay. So the Sefer reads in that verse, blow the shofar on the dark new moon today on our festival. By the way, what's interesting about this verse, almost every other modern translation understands it's two complete thoughts in this verse. For example, American Standard Version 2014, blow the trumpet. I like the fact that it says trumpet, not ram's horn. So kudos to the American Standard Version. Blow the trumpet at the new moon, at the full moon on our festival day. So the new moon is a new moon. The full moon is referring to a festival day they would have. So clearly it's a separate thought. And you'll see that even in the English translation David Boucher did of the Aramaic Peshitta. Says here, call with trumpets at the first of the month and at the full moon on feast days. The full moon is talking about the feast days of Leviticus 23, not a new moon. Okay, so clearly there's an issue with preconceived biases here. And it's not limited to Christian Bibles. So that's one thing I wanted to make a point of. I really like how the Catholic Bibles do it. It says, blow the trumpet for the festival when the moon is new and when the moon is full. So if when the moon is new is different from when the moon is full, they can't be the same day. So the Good News Bible, thumbs up. They actually understand that. It's funny that a Catholic Bible actually understands it. But even the JPS Tanach and the complete Jewish Bibles understand it, okay? The complete Jewish Bible says sound the shofar, should say new moon, not Rosh Kadesh. First of all, it's not, you're not sounding at the new year, number one. So it should say sound the shofar at the new moon and at full moon for the Pilgrim Feast. So again, it's two different days. So, I mean, you can see this for the majority of the translations. Okay, so ESV, same thing. So the fact of the matter is that you're always going to have a bias with a translator. There's always going to be a bias. Some biases are worse than others because some will really cause you problems when you're even talking about the Hebrew calendar, the biblical calendar. So anyway, so I trust that this was a baraga to those that were watching, listening in. So if you have any other questions and you're curious, please reach out to our ministry. Please reach out to the YouTube page that I have. I'm on Facebook as well. So if you guys have any questions, any concerns about what I spoke about in this video, if you would want to know more, please feel free to reach out to us. And Have a great rest of your night, all of our brothers and sisters out there. Shalom.